Hello and welcome to We Care Conversations, a podcast brought to you by the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board of Allen, Auglaize, and Hardin counties. I am one of your hosts, Cody Ridenauer.
And I am your other host, Elisa Bradley.
Yeah. And today we have a very interesting episode. We're getting into a little bit of law enforcement.
Law and order.
Law and order. Yeah. So today we have with us Captain Christopher Kinn from the Ohio State Patrol. So
Yes, thank you guys for having me here.
Welcome.
yeah, we're excited to have you. It's a different kind of guest than we've had, so we're excited to learn about what's going on. So if, I think if you just want to start with a little bit of your story, kind of how you got into law enforcement.
So I'm from Northwest Ohio. I grew up in Seneca County. Became a police officer when I was 18 years old, and I guess I'd always known that I wanted to be in law enforcement. Worked as a police officer for a couple years. You got to be 21 to be a state trooper, so kind of did my time as a village police officer. When I turned 20, I applied for the patrol and started 3 months after my 21st birthday, and I'll have 25 years in September. So been doing this. I can tell you, I still love getting ready for work every day. Still very passionate about it. I was a trooper at the Findlay Post, sergeant at the Findlay Post, and then I got into the crash reconstruction section. So I worked in crash reconstruction most of my career. Going to serious injury, fatal crashes all over the Northwest Ohio. And then I actually got promoted to lieutenant and I oversaw our reconstruction program. Then from there, I transferred down to our Columbus. Our general headquarters is down there. And as a staff lieutenant and now as a captain down there, and I get to oversee a lot of really cool programs. So my job and my stuff, I oversee our crash reconstruction section still. I oversee our motorcycle unit, our drug recognition experts, our mobile field force. They're the ones that get called out to civil disturbance, different things like that. And then I do some special projects, and a lot of my special projects focus on either distracted driving, seat belts, or impaired driving. And we have a couple different things going on, and I'm super excited to talk to you about Operation New Beginnings, which is something we started in January of 2023.
Operation New Beginnings. Okay. Yeah. So before we get there,
Right.
can you speak just a little bit more about some of how you work in other spaces?
Sure. So, as a trooper, right? Like our job is traffic safety, right? We're focused on traffic safety, and we have so many people die on Ohio roadways every year, right? Like our best year in recent years was just under 1,000 fatalities. And generally we average about that 1,100, 1,200 number is where we're at. So that's so many unnecessary deaths, right? And in society we kind of become immune to it, right? Like when was the last time you checked media and some sort of media, social media or news or whatever, and you didn't hear about a serious injury or a fatal crash, right? And those are totally preventable, because when we look at like the causes of crashes, they're all so many preventable things that we could all do, right? And we try to drive like defensively, but there's just so many behaviors that are out there. And so a lot of my work has focused on what are those high crash things, right? Like we average around 60% of the people in the state of Ohio every year that die didn't have a seatbelt on. Right, like that's a super easy thing to put on your seatbelt, right? So how do we make sure, and obviously as a state trooper, everybody thinks, well, you enforce your way out of it, right? Like we that doesn't work, right?
Get our
Like
ticket.
right, yes. So we try to focus on other programs, right? Like what's that? And we write tickets to get compliance, right? We do that to modify behavior. So whether that's seat belts or distracted driving, right? Like, I drive quite a ways every day, and I don't remember the last time I didn't see someone engaging with their cell phone, right?
Yeah, that's
Right. That's and I get it. It's a hard thing, right? Because when that thing goes off, you want to know, right? Like you want to know what's going on, right? But our car systems are becoming so much better now that I can find out, right? Like it
without
pops up on
engaging
it,
with the device.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like it's not like looking down, right? Like, and just kind of all those things. So our goal is to reduce that, whatever those violations are, is try to translate that into saving lives on the roadways. Because unfortunately, my experience in crash reconstruction, I've seen too many, right? Like that's what I did for a large portion of my career, was only going to serious injury and fatal crashes. Unfortunately, I've knocked on a lot of doorsteps, and told people that their loved ones are not coming home because of something that we
that was
could have
preventable.
preventable. Yeah, that's it's just so frustrating, because you see kind of these things over and over, and it's a tragedy. But I guess that's what motivates me to try to what we can do to prevent these things.
Sure. Thank you for speaking about your other programs. Just for a snippet, Cody and I were talking this morning. There's a lot we could talk about today, but we do want to give you the opportunity to speak about the primary reason of why you're here. So tell us what we need to know about this new program.
Well, we started looking at, and I talked about seatbelts and distracted driving, right? Impaired driving, and I think we've known impaired driving has been a problem in the United States and Ohio forever, right? And there's been big campaigns, and although numbers have come down, more than half of our fatal crashes in the state of Ohio involve an impaired driver every year, right? Like we're in the mid 50s percentage wise, right? Like 57% last year. That's a lot, right? And I guess that shows you how dangerous it is to drive impaired. The fact that 57% of the fatal crashes involve someone under the influence. One thing that usually surprises people is when we compare alcohol impaired driving with drug impaired driving, there's more drug impaired drivers than there is alcohol impaired drivers. And there has been since 2019, which is when our crash report form changed and we were able to start capturing it better, right? It probably was even before that. We just didn't know about it because we didn't capture the data.
Grab the data.
Right. So when we look at that, we're like 40-some% of our fatal crashes will involve a drug impaired driver, and like 33% involve an alcohol impaired driver. Now I'm comparing one drug, alcohol, to all the other drugs, but still, I think most of us, when we think of an impaired driver, we think of somebody that's had way too many beers, and they're kind of that fall down drunk, right? Like that the slurred speech, the you can't walk the line, all those things.
Can't do the thing.
Exactly. So how do we stop that, right? Like that's something like as the highway patrol, we arrest around 15 to 20,000 impaired drivers every year, right? And that's enforcing our way out of it isn't working, right? Because we keep doing that. And I'm not saying there's not a place for enforcement, because
There has to be.
it does. Of my time as a trooper, I spent a couple years, about 5 years on a midnight shift. And on the midnight shift, that's what your job is, arresting impaired drivers.
That's where all the
right?
stuff happens.
Right. If you're out after 2 a.m., you're up to no good, right? But seriously, I've wrote a lot of tickets, right, in my career as a trooper. Speeding tickets and seatbelt tickets, and those are meant to modify behavior. But I never felt like I was saving a life like when I arrested an impaired driver, right? Because I knew I was potentially saving their life or somebody else that's out there on the roadway. So that's something we take serious. But how do we complement that enforcement, right? Because we can't just enforce our way out of it. And when I got into this position and we started looking at data, one thing that really stood out to me was, and these numbers have evolved a little bit, but last year in the state of Ohio, 37% of the people that were arrested for impaired driving had a prior impaired driving charge in their lifetime, right? So not only is it a dangerous thing, but it's a repetitive dangerous thing,
Keep doing it.
right?
Yeah.
They keep doing it over, almost 4 out of 10, right? Like, so how do we break cycles, and just arresting them isn't enough. So what can we do more? And that's really kind of where Operation New Beginnings started. We knew treatment has to be a better option, and the court system, they're not set up for treatment, right? They punish them and they serve their time, whether it's they pay a fine, they do their time in jail, they can go to mandatory sessions of treatment sessions, but
it's
that's
different when you're made to do it.
right.
Yeah.
It
That's the
is.
difference.
It is.
You're doing it because
It is.
you have to, maybe
Exactly.
not because you want to.
Right. Think back when your parents made you do something, I did it begrudgingly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And now I do the same things, but of my own free will, right? Like, it's a lot different. So what we challenged all of our post commanders, and we have 59 patrol posts across the state of Ohio. We challenged them in January of 2023 to find mental health, substance abuse, behavioral health services, and everybody we arrest for impaired driving, give them that information, right?
Okay.
Like just there's no benefit, no reduction in charges, but just give them that information, right? And the intent was started as, you know, it's adversarial sometimes when we're arresting people, right? Like we don't generally get a pat on the back and say, "Hey, I really appreciate you arresting me tonight because I know how dangerous my behavior is," right? Like
That's not it.
that doesn't happen very often. So we wanted to give them that paper and hopefully in the morning when the dust settles and they're kind of looking through everything and if they know they need that, and I think most people know when they need help, whether they choose to accept it or not, they know, and that was at least something there to point them in a direction to get some help if they need it or if they're ready to accept it at that time. So we started with that, and then in February, I had a chance to talk to a group that's all the Adam H boards throughout the state of Ohio, right?
OACBA.
OACBA, exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It takes you a while to be able to say that
it-
when you look at the act.
It does, it does. And when I still got to like kind of sound it out to figure out what the acronym stands for, right? But all those Adam H boards are underneath there, and I was able to talk to them and told them what we're doing. And one of the executive directors jumped on there and was like, "Well, can we get a list of names from you?" And I'm like, "Well, wait, I don't know. That's, government works slow, right?" And I'm like, "Boy, I don't know if we could do that and what that would look like." And kind of went back internally. We looked at it, and we could release those names because all those names are people that have been charged, right?
So it's
And
public information.
exactly,
Okay.
it is public record. So we started a program. It started in 11 counties, and we started it in March of 2023. 11 counties wanted to get on board initially, and that was just kind of just some of them that were in attendance at that meeting, right? It's no, I mean, since then we've grown, so I know other ones would have jumped on board if they had they known at
Yeah.
the time. So, but we started with 11 counties, and every week our post commanders in those 11 counties would send the name, address, and phone number of everybody they had arrested for impaired driving, just so that way they could outreach. And we have our troopers tell them, "Hey, we're sharing your information. You're going to be contacted by somebody." Just to see if you need those services, right? Again, there's no reduction in charges or anything like that, but hey, just a heads up, this is coming. And we started with 11 counties, and as of today, we are up to 62 counties, and I have 3 more counties that I have meetings on the books with, so I'm hoping we'll be up to 65 counties. And in the state of Ohio, we have 88
88
counties,
counties,
so we've made pretty good
That's great
progress
growth,
in a couple
over
years.
2/3, so-
Definitely. And I think a large reason why we've added so many is because of the scalability of the program. So in order for a local Adam H board to be in Operation New Beginnings, they just have to contact a person, right? And we have some that have those QRTs, those quick response teams that go out and they knock on doors, and they knock on doors and offer those services. We have some that they just have clerical staff, so they send mailers and let people know, hey, these are the services that are available in your local area. And then we have some that have peer-to-peer support counselors on staff, and so they're calling, texting, reaching out in that manner, right? And I think that scalability allows, because Ohio's very diverse, right? We have rural, we have urban, we have a lot of different demographics in the state of Ohio, and that scalability allows any board to be a part of it. And we've seen success stories regardless which manner it is. We had a QRT go out. They knocked on the door of a guy that had been arrested for impaired driving. It was alcohol impaired driving. When he answered the door, they told him why they're there, and he's like, "Yes, this is what I need." He invited him in. They poured all the alcohol inside the house down the drain because he knew he had a problem and he couldn't stop it himself, and engaged in treatment with them right then and there. And even if nothing else works, like that
That day.
that day,
Something for someone was impacted.
and all the work, and he engaged in treatment and continued in treatment beyond that. So to me, that this is a win, right?
Sure.
Like I know we can't save everybody, right? Because some people just aren't ready for it, but we helped that one
That day.
person at that time. We had another success story where it was a board that mails out information, and the young lady was actually in jail serving her time for the impaired driving offense. Her mom was at her house getting a mail. Mom opens up this letter for her and says, "This is what she needs." And she actually did a three-way jail call and connected her daughter with those services. And the daughter engaged in treatment and via the jail phone, and then continued treatment after her jail stay. So again, I think to me, and I guess working in government, I see all that. Like you see all these services that are available, so I just take it for granted that everybody knows that, right? Because I know it.
And that's the gap.
It is.
That's
It
the gap.
totally
For
is.
those of us who know, aligned with those of us who don't know, and
Right.
how do we choose the information dissemination that will reach that specific clientele?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
thank you in advance for
As
that.
the team that does the
Right.
marketing and PR
Yeah.
for the mental health board, I do. This is so cool because our question is how do we reach the people that need this,
Right.
and will they listen? This
Right.
is the most straightforward way to
Yeah.
get to a group of people that absolutely need it and might get the help.
Right.
So I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
What does your information look like? Is it just paper flyers? Is it QR codes? Is it
So
folders,
It really
swag?
varies by county.
Okay.
We have our local patrol post work with that local county. So it really depends on what that is. A lot of agencies have QR codes or something, some sort of tear off document with a QR code. But like here, they're multi-county boards, and they usually customize it to that county.
Okay.
And just making sure, and it's more than recovery services, right? It's all kinds of different things. Do you need help finding a job? Do you need a place to stay? Do you need whatever those things are, or whatever those services that they can offer? It's usually a one-stop shop for everything that you need help with. So, but that's good because then it's kind of educating them on it. We have other ones that they do have more formal document that outlines those services on it, and it's a tangible thing. Today's day and age, just the QR codes are so easy to use, and there's few people that don't have a cell phone that can be utilizing that.
And that's the hard part.
It is.
We do believe that it should be easy because it's technology, but then I hear in my work that there are still people who don't have technology, who are terrified of a QR code, even though it is very simple. So how are you reaching those folks who are not technologically savvy or friendly?
And so that's those different manners of communication, right? Like sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's a house visit, different things like that. So we're trying to make sure that everybody gets contacted, and trying to get it in different ways as well, right? And it varies by county to county. Some boards just don't have the services to go out and knock on doors, but they do send mailers and they do follow up with telephone calls. So those are different things that we're trying to do there. We know that when this program first started, I kind of thought like what's a goal, right? Because working in government, we always have goals, right? Like our goals to reduce fatals over last year or whatever it is. And my goal was 10%, right? Like if we can get 10% to engage in services, and just kind of anecdotally, because it's tough to tell who's engaging in treatment, right? Because there's a lot of privacy concerns with stuff like that, and exactly. So, but just kind of anecdotally, what the boards are reporting back to us, we're seeing about that, that 5 to 10% is engaging in treatment. So to me, that's a great number. Yeah, I'd like it to be higher, but
But we
at
always have
least
to start somewhere.
exactly, and just. I guess that's showing how many people need those services that haven't been reached otherwise. Which to your point, about marketing, right? Like I guess in my space, I think I hear it a lot, right? Like I hear more mental health, behavioral health treatment things now than I ever have, right? there's not that so much of a negative stigma associated with it, right? It's okay to not be okay, right? And even in law enforcement, right? We're seeing more and more of that. Like we have a mental health and wellness section of the Ohio State Highway Patrol, right? And that's what they're
I want to talk about my
doing.
question, because that was one of my other questions about how are we serving you all, but go ahead.
Hey, oh
Please
yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Yes.
And you know, we know that our people see really bad stuff and they deal with tough situations, right? You know, and everybody handles things differently, but we're making sure that they know what services are available and we're taking care of our people. That's something that you know, kind of that's been a transformation that I've seen, a very drastic transformation that I've seen in my time with the patrol. You know, because when I first started, you know, when you went to a really bad fatal crash,
Yeah.
you didn't talk. You know what I mean? Like you didn't talk about it. You didn't.
And we're
you know.
thankful that we're trying to change some of those options. I know we have CISM teams and other groups of people who will come and support our law enforcement agencies. Are you all able to really engage in those spaces, and how are you seeing those numbers differ?
We do. So we have our MAT team, our members assistance team,
Okay.
and we find that peer to peer is the best, right? Because we're a tough bunch to break into.
Yes, you
Right?
are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, you are.
Kind of trust no one, and you know, there's pretty big walls built up, right? And we found a lot of success with using that outreach from other people, right? Like somebody that's dressed like me, and have seen different things and can relate those stories. We see a lot more with that, and it's gone from. I can think of like we call them like critical incidents, right? Like a big incident where there was a like a death of an officer or something else tragic like that. We would do like a debrief, and that was kind of it, right? Like that was kind of where it stopped. And when we look at what it is now, where, you know, especially as like a supervisor where I oversee the reconstruction team and I know one of my guys is struggling with something, right? I can call the MAT team and say, hey, why don't you follow up with them and see? Because as a supervisor, you know, that's not necessarily, some might be willing to talk to me about it, but I want them to talk to somebody on their level and take care of it and trust that they're going to know what's best. They're going to take care of that thing, and then I don't have to get involved unless I have to be involved in it.
That's good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that stigma change everywhere, which is good. It's baby steps. I guess a personal kind of anecdote story thing I have. 10 years ago, I was on the grand jury doing that thing. And I mean, it just seemed like every one that came through was just felony possession. And I remember saying to the other jurors, like, we got to vote how the law says, but this is kind of crazy. Like, it's like every fifth case might have been not felony possession. And, it was, you know, they had drugs in their system, so that was possession. But it seems like some of that stigma is changing, and there's some different, I don't know, the laws that are changing, but maybe some, you know, when someone gets a felony like that, you know, they can't drive, they can't get the help they need.
Right.
So are we seeing any changes more recently as far as support for people that, you know, some of these people just, they did drugs, go to jail, felony,
Right.
tough to get a job. Anything about what's going on with that?
And it becomes a cycle, right?
Yeah.
Because once you get into that, right? Like, and we would see it with like a suspended license, right? If especially in Northwest Ohio, right?
Yeah.
We don't. I don't know if Uber runs up here, right? I guess I've never taken a ride share,
Yeah.
right?
It's here, but it's not like availability in Franklin County.
Right. And then no mass transit system. So when that license suspension becomes so detrimental to somebody, and then how do they
Get out of it.
back,
Yeah.
right? And we've seen that though in government with the courts and with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, where they're offering amnesty days where you can come in and you can do those things. And there's certain things that are exempt from that, but by and large, we see a lot of a lot more working with people than we ever did before. Again, that's another transformation I've seen in my career, right? Like that driving under suspension was a hard and fast rule, and unless you paid those reinstatement fees, you could not get out of that cycle.
Yeah, that cycle is it's really hard to overcome. I'm trying to keep it contained, but it's really hard, and very costly.
It is, and then it compounds,
Yeah,
right?
and that's-
Because then you get in trouble, and then then you get another driving under suspension, and the judge suspends your license again for driving under suspension, and then it just builds, right? And then it gets an almost insurmountable
Yeah.
hill to overcome. So I've seen that, whether it's in the laws that come out from the General Assembly, or working with the courts, or working with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to try to get people truly rehabilitated, and try to set them onto the right path. And I think it's so much better. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's so much better than what it ever was before. And a lot of it kind of comes down to kind of the same thing with the mental health boards, right? Like there's things out there, you just have to be pointed in the right direction to get that help. And to understand that, hey, this is an amnesty day, and that this isn't something that you can get a valid driver's license. So it's really just kind of knowing that those services are available, and then taking advantage of them when the opportunity presents itself.
So, Operation New Beginnings is one tool that y'all are using to disseminate information. How else are our patrolmen working to change the reputations and the relationships between our law enforcement and our communities?
So that is something that's dramatically different than ever before. And our social media is probably one of the biggest ways that we see it. Whether when I was driving around as a trooper, and I would see maybe kids out doing something, right? And my level of engagement, right, was different, right? Like I was the stereotypical trooper, right? We didn't smile. We we wear our hat tilted a lot, and we realized that's not good for anybody, right? It's not good for us. It's not good for the people that we serve. So I think that those opportunities present itself, right? And we see those opportunities, and not just in a patrol, but other agencies. I think social media has offered glimpses into those things where, if back 25 years ago, we didn't have a way to share that, right? Like, well, a picture of a law enforcement officer playing basketball with some kids at a playground, maybe it'd make the paper, right? Like, but even then, in a human interest story or something like that, you think about that, right? You think about the social media now, where whatever social media app you're going through, and you're scrolling through it, and you see those things, and it kind of humanizes stuff a little bit more. And I think that the situations that we're in, there's more opportunity to humanize and relate to people, right? And that's something that's kind of on us as law enforcement, right? Like, we've had those opportunities, and I think we're just better at taking advantage of them now than we ever were before. And I can tell you, it really varies by officer, right? But making sure that our people out there driving around know that they have support from supervisors to get people the help they need, right? To point them in those directions. If you're dealing with someone that has a problem, take the time, get them the help they need, and then point them at least in the direction where they can get some assistance. And that's something where we definitely support that. We support that organizationally, and just make sure. Now, ours is a little bit different than say a police department or a sheriff's office, because we're generally limited to the roads, highways, state-owned or leased property. So you only see a trooper generally on a traffic stop, right? But we do engage in the schools. We do a lot of educational stuff, whether it's it used to be just like the mock crashes at the prom season, things like that. But we do more than that now.
Yeah.
So and I'm not saying that's not valuable in some senses, but I think the we have a Drive to Live program where we're out engaging in the schools, right? And we're talking to the talking to kids in the schools, and that does a lot, right? That humanizes us as officers, right? Because if I go in there and talk about it, I can talk about the fact that I have 3 teenage kids, right? And 2 of them have their driver's licenses, right? And there is few things more scary in my life than when they pull out of the driveway the first time, right? And we talk about those because what's going to work for those kids, and talking about death and destruction, and we all go back to that. Like when I was 16, I was Superman. There's nothing could hurt me, right? And as I get older, you start to, and probably because of my profession, I see the vulnerabilities, right? Like a lot of kids die unnecessarily because of traffic crashes. So trying to relate that to my kids, to other people's kids, and what works to modify their behavior. You know, when I was a trooper out writing tickets, you don't lecture people, but you would try to give.
But you want to.
You do. Oh yeah.
Especially, I want to lecture people. And I have no law enforcement capabilities, but when I see young people doing the things that I know as a mom, as an educator, as a therapist, all of the things, I want to give them the mom stare and make them put their phone down or stop goofing off. And after the show, can we talk about how I can get some law enforcement
Sure.
capabilities?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But what resonates with kids, right? And telling kids that that don't do this because you could die.
It's not the
That's
thing.
that's not the
It's not
that's
the thing.
no. But what does resonate with them is financial consequences, right? Like, okay, so if you get caught speeding, your insurance, your parents' insurance is going to go up, right? You get involved in a crash, there's going to be financial consequences of that. Or you get a traffic citation as a juvenile, you can lose your license. Now everybody's got to come pick you up. Now your
Freedom
friends,
that you love.
right?
Is
Right.
gone.
You want to test the loyalty of your friends, they got to come pick you up, right? Like you're going to find out who your friends are, right?
Absolutely. And do you have gas money
Yes.
for them to come and get you and take
Correct.
you and tote you around?
Yeah. So it's just kind of finding what works for kids, right? You stop somebody that's in their 30s or 40s and they have kids in the car, and you're like, hey, you need to slow down because it's not just you're putting at risk, right? Like something like that is a little bit more resonating with them, because as a parent, my primary concern is not my welfare, but it's of the welfare of my children, right? So just kind of finding what works for people, and not lecturing, but just kind of giving those reminders. There's a time and a place for those things, and there's a time and a place not, right? If I arrested somebody for impaired driving, I generally wasn't lecturing them, right? Putting handcuffs on them, bringing them into the patrol post.
Is the lecture.
That is the lecture.
That's the thing.
They're not
Yes.
gonna listen.
Yeah, they really weren't in the mood to be discuss
with you.
that. Yeah, exactly.
So thank you for making us aware of this program. If our listeners want to be engaged or want to have you to come and speak, or someone from your department, what do they do?
Contact your local patrol post.
And then do they ask specifically about the New Beginnings program?
Definitely. Yeah, the local post here is on board with it. They can come and talk about it. I can come and talk about it. This is something where we definitely want to celebrate stuff like this, and we want to socialize this, right? We want to make sure people know this is going on and that there's an opportunity, because right now it's feeding, names of people that have been arrested for impaired driving into this system, right? It doesn't have to be just this way, though, right? Like people deal with that, and that's kind of been one of those unintended benefits of Operation New Beginnings. Was we deal with people in mental health crisis, not just impaired driving, but all different kinds of stuff, right? In law enforcement, and we didn't always know where to connect them. And now we've seen some of those benefits of this, because dealing with some people, we had a young lady that was involved in a crash, and come to find out she was trying to kill herself. It wasn't a crash; it was an intentional act, and we were able to connect her with those services because we knew who to call from the local Adam H board to say, hey, she needs some help, right? And so they came to visit her at the hospital, and she engaged in treatment afterwards. So things like that are good opportunities for us to get people plugged into stuff. So and that's what I look for, from everybody, right? Like knowing something like this exists, and we have people in our life that we know they could use some help, right? I'm sure, and sometimes we don't know where to point them or how to get them that help. Well, knowing something like this exists, this is definitely helpful, right?
I oftentimes talk about how do we build a toolbox in many avenues of mental wellness. It's not just a therapist, it's not just a pastor or a companion, but it's also our law enforcement, it's also our governmental agencies. And so we thank you for this. How do you see this program growing?
Our goal is to saturate the state of Ohio, right? And there's a few things. We want to saturate the state of Ohio, and we don't want to make it a highway patrol specific, right? We want to touch all law enforcement and find ways where it's easy for us because we put all this information into our system and it can be exported. Well, the hundreds of law enforcement agencies across the state of Ohio, everybody uses a different system, right? So it's a challenge. But those are things where our team that works on this is looking for ways to do this because we want to reduce that recidivism rate in the state of Ohio. We want to make sure that people aren't get into the system and then it's just repetitive over and over and over, right? So we need to break those cycles, and the way we break those cycles, and when I talk about that recidivism number, that's not just highway patrol arrests, that's all impaired driving arrests from all law enforcement agencies. So that shows there's a need there, right? And so that's what we want to do is saturate the state of Ohio, so that way anybody that's arrested anywhere in the state of Ohio gets some sort of follow-up, right? And they get some at least touch base to at least offering it, right?
Open the door to maybe they'll take advantage.
Exactly. At least give them an opportunity. Yes. But then we also want to build it out to let other law enforcement agencies plug into this as well, because they deal with people in mental health crisis all the time.
Absolutely, because where you guys are, if you think of it as an org chart, y'all are kind of at the top of that.
Right.
And we want our local LPD and Allen County Sheriff's Department to know about this also. Are they aware? Do you know if they're aware? And again, how do they connect?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know what all agencies are aware. We're still trying to get that framework built to get the state saturated, and then trying to bring in our local law enforcement partners, because it's really tough. It's really time consuming to go out to individual. We want to try to paint with those broad brushes and try to get like, hey, any agency that wants to be part of this, you're welcome to be. Like we don't want to. My vision for Operation New Beginnings is it's statewide for the boards and for the agencies, right? The law enforcement agencies, but we're probably a little bit, it's going to take a little bit to get there,
Yeah.
but definitely something that's our kind of downrange long-term goals is to make it like this. And with the impaired driving, as a singular agency, we just make more impaired driving arrests than most agencies. So that's a way that we could plug into it, but it doesn't have to be just an impaired driving. It could be, we deal with people all the time in a variety of different mental health crises. So we want to be able to plug anybody into this that we possibly can.
Okay. Well, thank you for this information. Again, as prevention grows, sharing folks like you and what you're doing is important, and we thank you for your time.
No, thank you. I really appreciate this.
If people just wanted to stay up to date on State Highway Patrol and things going on, where can they go?
Any of our social media platforms are really good to talk about that. We talk a lot, whether it's any of the Instagram or Facebook, Twitter or X, any of those things. We're pretty active on those things, talking about a variety of different stuff, right? Whether it's a different enforcement campaign or we're just sharing stories about behavioral stuff. Even going to our website, if you're really interested in looking at problem areas, if you go to the Highway Patrol's website, we have dashboards, and we have specific dashboards about specific things. Like we have a distracted driving dashboard, we have an impaired driving dashboard, and you can see different videos, different things like that, and that kind of way raises that public awareness about some of these things because. Utilizing our body cameras, our dash cameras is something we're trying to take advantage of because us just sitting there telling you that these behaviors are very are destructive and can cause harm, but when we show them, that's a lot different. And I think that society kind of expects to see that kind of stuff. So we want to try to educate and make sure you know, and you can use those as education tools for your loved ones, right? There's no better opportunity as a parent to show them and be like, this is why you don't do this, right? You see how dangerous this is? Kind of things like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Hope everyone checks out the Ohio State Patrol on social media. I'm going to do our wrap up with all the resources that our mental health board offers. I wrote them down so I don't forget any. Yeah. You can dial 988 to get information about all kinds of agencies, not just the mental health board agencies. And then you can go to wecarepeople.org for mental health and recovery services here in the 3 counties. Tons of great info on there, stuff about all the initiatives and everything. And then, oh yes, Ascend Notify. Yeah, we got to plug this.
Please.
This is a community.
I was gonna say, tell the people what it
Yeah,
is.
It's a community health update texting service. So it's real easy.
It sounds so serious.
I know, it sounds way more
Yeah,
intense than what it is.
okay.
So I'm signed up for it.
I am too.
Great. So you text start to this number that I'll say at the end. And then periodically you'll get a text to your phone and it will give you a little text update on something happening in the community. Whether it's a training that's like a free training for mental health. There's a movie screening coming up, I think. But they'll also do things like, hey, there's a bad batch of drugs out in the community right now. Just be aware of that. Or we're giving away Narcan this date and time. It will remind you to check on your loved ones if there's a current event that's not so cool. I even remember when flu was really bad, I got a text. It was like, hospitals are full. If you're sick, stay home. So they're really unobtrusive. They just show up on your phone. I see, oh, it's a Send Notify. Good to know.
I think what's also good about that is that you get to choose what type of information you would like to receive. So if it's not all of those things, maybe you want to know about services for your children or programs for your children or what's available for our elderly population. So it's not just one category of things. It's a lot of things that can help to make our communities better. And I'm sure we'll be adding maybe some of your program information to that as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So to do that, you text START, START, to 888-701-2578. And then it'll give you some questions to answer. And anytime you don't want them anymore, you just text stop. Yeah. So,
Easily done.
as always, if you're in a crisis, you can call 1-800-567-HOPE or walk into the Crisis Center on South Main Street. And in an extreme emergency, dial 911. And also, we will be giving this disclaimer from now on. I am not a mental health professional.
Okay.
Lisa
I am.
is.
I am. It's okay to say that. The state of Ohio says I can say that. Yes.
But this podcast is just for informational purposes, and we hope that if you need help, you seek it out.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.